started.
We are set.
All right. Well, thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I'm so glad to see so many people have signed up for this webinar, and it certainly is a popular topic right now. So I hope that at the end you walk away with something that is helpful to you. And if there are others in your life, either at work or at home, that you're concerned about, that there's some things and, you know, some strategies, but also just a perspective to be able to share as well. So as Brittany said, I'm Mary Kimmel. I'm with the Employee Assistance Program, your Trust Work-Life Assistance. And so I will be sharing a little bit more information at the end about the Employee Assistance Program, just for you to know a little bit about me. I have been providing employee assistance for the Trust for really since the beginning, and I'm right here in Concord, New Hampshire, and have been doing EAP work in New Hampshire for a long time. I'm also a licensed clinical mental health counselor, so I bring that awareness to this topic as well. So as Brittany said, I will be just asking you for a little feedback from time to time, thoughts that you may have about things. You can just put it right in the chat. I won't be identifying anyone, but I'll just be looking for themes. So let's jump right in. Any of this sound familiar? Ever have that experience where you go to bed at night and you wake up at 2 in the morning with a million things running through your mind, and then the night's sleep is kind of lost? Or have you found yourself working fast and furious and you kind of wake up to the fact that you're not really breathing, you're almost holding your breath? Or you're doing some aspect of your work, whether it's reading email or something else, and you really realize you're not focused. I know myself, I can read an email over 3 times and realize I'm not absorbing it. Or just getting caught in that spinning of every possible thing that could go wrong. If I'm kind of worried about something and my mind just keeps creating another scenario, everything that could go wrong. If you ever have had any of these experiences, I'm sure we've all had that experience of worry, things that we're worried about, and worry can become anxiety. So just a quick question: what keeps you up at night? Is it deadlines? Is it just the volume of work that you have to respond to? Is it workplace dynamics, you know, whether that's with coworkers or people you're supervising? Or is it at home, concern about family members, or COVID and just all of the complexities and the ways that's impacting our lives? So just if you'd like to just chat in a word or two about the kinds of things that keep you up at night, because I'd be really curious to know kind of what people are bringing today, what you're concerned about, and then I can really tailor to what might be helpful to you. So Brittany, just let me know if we get any chats and what people are chatting about.
I will do that.
Great. This is what we'll be talking about today. We'll be exploring what is that continuum. You know, we all have worries. That's just a normal part of everyday life, but there's that place at which it goes to creating anxiety. When should we be concerned? What is the physical and emotional impact of carrying a lot of work and anxiety? And then we're really going to focus on how to cope. So I have 4 steps and we'll go through those one by one. I want to create a context, first of all. That is, where are we now? In truth, we have always had worry and anxiety in our lives. Just think back to your work life before COVID. Was it stressful? Were there things that concerned you or kept you up at night? But now we're 1.5 years into COVID. So if you just kind of look at these quotes here, we're living in this age of coronavirus, vast unknown, information overload. The conditions of our lives, both at work and at home, are changing constantly. And a lot of that change we don't have control over. So I loved this quote from Catherine Belling. Anxiety can spread faster than the virus. It can even be contagious. If there's someone in a family, in a work team, at the workplace who's worried about something, feeling very anxious, you've seen it. It can spread like wildfire. So how do we know? How do we know what's just a normal reaction to abnormal circumstances? And I'm okay, I'm managing, what I'm feeling is normal, versus when is it starting to cause a problem? When is it neither healthy or productive for us? So that's important to hold, that this is over and above what we have ever had to deal with before. And I think most people, I would say 99%, are feeling some level of worry and anxiety. Brittany, I noticed there's a chat.
Yes. So we have a couple people chatting in about what keeps them up at night. Dealing with social isolation due to the pandemic, not knowing what's safe and not safe to do, keeping young children safe while at school, daycare, and workload.
Right. And, you know, all of those things that are mentioned, certainly the isolation, where do we get strength? Where do we get comfort? From others? And then when we're isolated, we can't use that strategy or that comfort in the same way. But some of those other things also, just safety protocols, what's right, what's not, we get new information all the time. And also this reflects a blurring of our personal life and our professional lives. That, you know, it used to be maybe you had some stressful things going on at home, but you'd go to work and focus on your work, and it would almost be a relief in a sense, or vice versa. Today, it's all blurred together. So I think that's another way in which the pandemic is over and above what we have had to deal with in the past. Anything else, Brittany? At all?
I'm not seeing anything else right now.
Okay. All right. So you'll see in this last slide, when is worry and anxiety impacting us at a level that is neither healthy or productive? Here's the answer. When should we worry about our worrying? As I've said, we've all had worry in the past. We manage it. We have ways of managing it. So manageable worry and anxiety can be motivating. It spurs us to problem solving and action. So that can be anything from, we need deadlines. We have deadlines. They can cause us concern. You know, they can light a fire under us. But how much work would we get done if we didn't have deadlines? And then, you know, the other end of that continuum is think about crises that happen in our communities. Crises can be very anxiety provoking, but they oftentimes bring people together at their best. They're motivating. People get going. They join together, get things done. I think that's one aspect of the pandemic that's been so challenging, is the fact that it goes on and on and on. It's not one problem that we solve, we feel good about, and we move on. It's become permeating, and we don't know when the end will be in sight. So excessive worry is when it is problem generating. That's when we can become immobilized. It becomes difficult to take a step forward. We become unfocused. We don't know what to do. Or it's just, I'm so fatigued, I can't get out of bed in the morning. or I'm just frozen because I'm so afraid. So that's the difference: manageable worry and anxiety versus excessive. And we'll look at how do we cope with that. I noticed another chat, Brittany. Is there anything there? Nope. Okay. Think of worry as a continuum. Worry over into the zone of anxiety. So we all have those mild concerns, just occasional thoughts that might cause us some discomfort, something we're concerned about. I know I've got that meeting coming up next week and I've got a lot on my plate. I've got to get this one thing done. So it's kind of hanging out there. It's like that little black cloud, and we know we have to attend to it, but we've still got some time. Then we move along this continuum to where that mild concern is really turning into worry. It's starting to permeate a little more. So now I'm moving to that middle section, and the meeting is in 2 days, and this person still hasn't gotten me the information so I can finish putting this report together. Then the thoughts get more permeating, disruptive in terms of how am I going to deal with this? When am I going to get this done? And we get more uncomfortable. And then we move to the far right on this continuum. This is when we have really moved into that place of a debilitating fear. Our thoughts become obsessive. We can't stop them. Have you ever had that experience where your thoughts just go round and round? You can't solve the problem. The fears may just keep coming back and nothing's quieting them. And that can cause us to kind of freeze and become immobile and not be able to take the next step forward. And whether that's at work or at home, I look at this same continuum. I think of the mild concern might have been next July or last July. Gee, I really hope the kids are going to be able to go back to school safely. And then by about the beginning of August, the more information comes along. What are we going to do? How are we going to plan for this? And you might find yourself at the right side of that continuum the day that you hear that there's been some type of outbreak in the school that your child is in. So that would be another example. So we all move from left to right, back and forth. We could conceivably move through this continuum in a day's time or less. So how do we recognize where we're at on the continuum and interrupt some of these patterns that aren't so helpful? Just take a look at this. A big theme here is going to be recognizing how we're doing and where we are. Some of us hold our worry and anxiety in a way that's more mental. It's what's going on in our mind, that difficulty focusing, ruminating thoughts. So if you look at the thought side over on the right, just see if any of this looks familiar. Those thoughts that go round and round, difficulty focusing. It might be, I can't stay where I am in the moment because I'm so afraid about what's going to happen tomorrow or next week. It's hard for me to make a decision because I'm so afraid of the consequences of all of the options, those kinds of things. So that difficult thinking. If we pop over to the left side and the feelings, see if any of this looks familiar. That edginess, restlessness, it may be sadness. There has been a lot of grief during COVID. Everything from losing life as we knew it to perhaps losing a loved one, either to COVID or something else, and not being able to grieve that person or people the way that we would when we could all safely be together. You may be feeling fatigue, just that loss of motivation, difficult to get up off the couch or put one foot in front of the other. Anybody feel it in your body, whether that be muscle tension, headaches, just various difficult feelings in your body, and the difficulty sleeping. And I would really put out there, is there anybody that's really sleeping like a baby right now? That has been really tough. And how do we see this all come together? You see the gears here, they're all working together. Our behaviors, do you recognize anything here? Sometimes the stress of the worry and anxiety can cause us to be irritable. And that's very natural. It's what happens when we're overwhelmed. Some people will lash out in anger. It's when I'm really at the end of my rope and I have an outburst. For other people, it may be avoiding. The only way I can deal with this is to avoid the situation or avoid that person or whatever that may be, or just to withdraw. I just don't feel like talking right now. I really don't want to go to that gathering. I have concerns and I don't want to be around a lot of people. It's not unusual to find ourselves feeling tearful, crying, just feeling that sadness. Or another emotion behind tearfulness sometimes is extreme frustration. So look at these boxes here and just identify for yourself. It can be a constellation. And is there anything that jumps out at you that says, yeah, I experience that a lot. And I know that's one of my red flags that I'm struggling. So that's where this can be helpful. We need to start recognizing our own red flags. If you have any questions or would like to know more or a comment, feel free to chat that in and Brittany will let me know. So I'm not going to leave you there with the continuum of anxiety and worry or with all the ways that it manifests. We're going to move forward and say, we can manage this. There are strategies we can use. There are things we can do to be able to continue moving through this very difficult time. So here are 4 steps. The first step is to really recognize and manage our patterns of thinking. The second is to, as much as possible, stay focused in the present moment. All I can really deal with is what's right in front of me right here, right now. And then a part of that is identifying and acting on what I have control over. There's a whole lot that I do not have control over. So I can't do anything about that. But there is a lot that I do have control over. And then finally, this is a time when we have to very intentionally practice good self-care. How am I taking care of myself? Whether that's just being kind to myself and recognizing I'm not going to be at the top of my game every moment, or is that getting out for a walk? Or is that spending time, finding a way to spend time with a loved one? All right. So we will go ahead and dive in. The first piece of this is managing your thoughts. One way that we move across that continuum from the kind of mild concern about something to full-blown anxiety is what we are telling ourselves about the situation. So we really have to be able to manage our thoughts and how our thoughts might actually be making the situation worse than what it really is. So in order to do that, we have to be able to recognize what we're thinking. We have something called thought distortions. This is when you take a set of facts and then the way that we think about it makes that, it just magnifies it. It either magnifies it or totally minimizes it and makes it worse. So these are some common thought distortions. All or nothing. All or nothing is kind of that black and white thinking. It's either all bad or it's all good. It's all terrible or it just doesn't matter. So that back and forth. So, we have to look and say, am I being inflexible here? And is my rigidity in saying it's all this or they are all like that? We do a lot of that around groups of people. They're all bad, and that's just all or nothing. Or we might see another group of people. They're all great. All of them, they're great. That would be all or nothing. Disqualifying the positive. This is a time when we are so surrounded by negative information. All you have to do is flip on the television, and we are surrounded by negative information. And there are a lot of things in our lives that can be very frustrating, that we either ignore or totally miss the positive. There's a movement out there right now. You've probably heard about it, the gratefulness movement, kind of starting your day saying, what am I grateful for today? We can usually find at least one thing. And there's actually research out there that says, no matter how bad things are, if people find positive things to focus on, it helps them cope better. It's really the physiology in the brain, which parts of the brain are getting turned on. So finding ways to focus on the positive, not discount the positive, and not missing it. Really learning to focus our eyes, our ears, our sense of ourselves on what is positive. The other thing that can get in the way here is jumping to conclusions. We might have a situation where we don't know completely what's going on, and we make assumptions. Why did that person do that? Here's a real quick little example. My boss walks in the morning. They walk right by me. They don't even say hello. It's as if I wasn't sitting there. And then a few minutes later, they open their door and say, could you come in and see me for a minute? What do I do? Imagine what's going through your head. Oh my gosh, what did I do now? And then I go from the mild concern of, boy, my boss walked in this morning. It looks like they're not having a great day, to the other end of the continuum, just what did I do wrong? Racking my brain. Was it because this, that, or the other? Only to walk in the office, sit down, and have my boss say something like, I just got some bad news today. I'm going to have to take the day off. Could you manage this or that for me? And I look at all of the energy that I used in creating stories about something, taking a set of facts. The boss didn't acknowledge me. They seemed to be kind of in a rush. Their brow was furrowed, all the way to, what did I do wrong? It's all about me. So think of the different ways in your life where in different circumstances, we jump to conclusions before we have all the information. And then finally, catastrophizing or minimizing. Very simply said, catastrophizing is going immediately to the worst case scenario. That's a survival technique. If I can imagine the worst thing that's going to happen, and I somehow make a plan for that, then I'll be able to handle whatever comes my way. Mark Twain had a saying that, I've imagined a lot of bad things in my life. Most of them have never happened. So we spend a lot of energy going to the worst case scenario, and it's simply not helpful. The other is minimizing a situation. Have you ever had someone say to you, maybe you're upset about something difficult happened to you, and someone says, it's not a big deal, just get over it. How does that feel to you? That person, it may not be a big deal to them, but it's a big deal to you. So we have to be very careful of minimizing. If I'm minimizing it for myself and ignoring the fact that I'm pretty upset about something, it'll creep out in one way or the other. But we have to, with the minimizing, we have to be very careful to not do that with other people as well. Any comments, questions so far? Feel free to just chat them right in. Okay. So if all of those thought distortions create, bigger stories, move us down that continuum, what are calming thoughts? So in that all or nothing thinking, we have to look for the middle ground. We have to be able to think in a more complex way and consider the gray areas. So, I'm kind of upset with my work team today. They're all just, not doing their jobs. It might be helpful if I brought it back to the middle and said, what's really going on with my team today? There might be one or two people who, for whatever reason, aren't performing well. I need to get to the bottom of that. And otherwise, it has been a pretty stressful time. So what are some things I can do for my team? You could apply that same thinking to your family, for that matter. I talked a lot about seeking the positive, really, whether it's setting up a gratefulness practice so that every morning when you get up or when you go to bed at night, to stop and think, what went well today? Or what am I looking forward to today? Or in this moment, what am I grateful for? If you are in a supervisory role, you can really help shift a person's energy by looking for the positives in your staff. Right at this point in time, people are under so much pressure for so many reasons, both personal and professional, that to have someone just recognize something positive about them or their work can do so much to help that person rise up and be in a better place. The jumping to conclusions, we all do it. We all make judgments. We all tell ourselves stories about what's going on. That's not the problem. What we have to do is recognize when we're doing it, take a step back, and then walk through it step by step. What do I know for sure? Is there a way that I can gather more information? So step by step to figuring out a situation rather than impulsively making a story. And then the story gets legs and gets bigger and bigger. And then finally, as I said, the catastrophizing, the worst case scenario, we can waste a lot of mental, emotional energy on worst case scenario. So if we can look at what's right in front of me, what do I know, once again, in this moment, and deal with that one step at a time. It's another one step at a time. Or if I'm tending to minimize something, to say, is it time to take a little deeper look? Maybe check in with myself and say, how am I really doing? I think I'm doing fine, but then why am I snapping at my family members or my coworkers? And if there's somebody we're worried about, rather than saying, what's the problem with them? Maybe it's time to sit down and just say, how you doing? Seems like you're having a rough day. Anything anybody would want to add, any comment or question? Once again, just chat that right in. This is just a very quick run through of how to deal with difficult thinking, is to step back, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what am I thinking? What am I telling myself about this situation? Do I know that that's true, that's factual, reality tested? Consider the evidence, seek more information, and then that positivity. Can you form new messages about it? Boy, seems like my boss, or it could be my husband or my partner or my teenager. It seems like they're having a rough time. Rather than it must all be about me, the new message would be, seems like they're having a rough time today. I wonder what's going on. Maybe I should ask them. And then also look at, what have my strengths been in the past? How have I had successes in the past? Draw on what we already know. You all have tools in your toolbox. And so we have to remember that and draw on that. The other aspect of this is staying rooted in the present moment. So this is really the segue into the next piece, which is mindfulness. You may have heard this term. It's certainly out there, in a lot of different ways. Mindfulness meditation, practicing mindfulness. For the moment, I'd like for you to think about it as a concept. The concept of mindfulness is that I am rooted in the present moment, observing what is right here and right now. One thing that really contributes to our worry and anxiety is our inability at times to stay rooted in the present moment. And that's because our minds are very powerful. They're powerful because it is generated by fear. So one thing we tend to do is flee forward. That's that worst case scenario. What's everything that could happen? What's everything I need to think about? That's fleeing forward. And it's very compelling because we are trying to control the situation. The other thing we do is that we can kind of recede backward. We think about that meeting we had yesterday, that interaction we had with a family member. We may feel regrets. We may be doubting ourselves. Did I handle that correctly? And then the obsessive thoughts start. And we notice we're having trouble breathing and we can't stop thinking about it. We have to be able to bring ourselves back to the present moment. Part of the present moment might be saying to myself, I'm still thinking about that conversation I had yesterday with my coworker or my spouse or whoever it may be. It's still on my mind. So in this present moment, maybe what I need to do is talk with them, find a way to remedy the situation. That's staying present rather than spending so much time going over things from the past or trying to control things in the future. So mindfulness as a practice, the more you practice actual mindfulness meditation, the better you get at recognizing when you're dwelling either in the past or fleeing forward and losing where you're at in this moment. Jon Kabat-Zinn from University of Massachusetts actually developed, and this was decades ago, the mindfulness-based stress reduction clinic at UMass Medical Center. It's all about the practice of sitting with our breath and just being aware of what's going on through our minds and what's going on in our bodies. It's a moment to moment awareness. The more that we practice mindfulness, the easier it gets to stay rooted in the present moment. It is so important, and a huge aspect of mindfulness is that we do not judge our experience. We're not telling ourselves, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that, or why do I keep focusing so much on something that's not going to happen for a month? There's so much judging that goes on of ourselves and sometimes of others, that we consider mindfulness a judgment-free zone. Just notice it. There it is. Oh, okay. Come back to the present moment. It's a state of awareness and observation, both of our internal life and our external life. So we're going to just practice this for one moment, and I'll walk you through it. What I'd like you to do is sit back in your chair and just get comfortable. Make sure your breathing is fully open. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. If you're more comfortable, just stare down, have a soft gaze, perhaps pick one point to stare at. And then begin to settle in. We'll do this for 1 moment, 1 minute, and I'll walk you through it. So we'll start now. Begin by asking yourself a simple question. Where is my breath? And just notice, what is the rhythm of your breathing? Feeling that inhale, that expansion in your body, and then the release and the exhale. No need to try to adjust your breathing. Just notice the rhythm. Inhaling, expanding, exhaling, releasing. Notice if that rhythm is changing at all. And then as you're ready, bring your attention back into the room. So think about that for a minute. When is the last time you sat absolutely still and basically did nothing? Just sat still and watched your breath. You may have noticed there were a lot of thoughts going through your mind. That's okay, non-judging. If I notice a lot of thoughts racing through my mind, I just label them. There they are, thinking, boy, I've got a lot on my mind right now. Wonder what it is. Can be very telling to just notice, just observe our thoughts as if it's a movie going by. The other thing that you might have noticed is some physical sensations. Maybe you hadn't noticed, oh, I've got that little hint of a headache coming on, or this chair isn't as comfortable as I thought it was, or maybe I need to adjust my posture. It's just observing, and it's a very good practice for getting rooted back in this present moment. Because when you think about it, this is all we have. All we have is the moment we are living in. The past is gone, and the future has not unfolded yet. We don't know from one moment to the next what our future holds in reality. All we have is this moment. So we're going to do that for one more moment, and I'm just going to give you a little more instruction about how to meditate mindfully. Once again, sitting in your chair, allowing your body to just settle in a comfortable way. either closing your eyes or having a soft gaze downward, and we'll begin again. Asking yourself that very important question: where is my breath? And just noticing your own natural rhythm. Inhaling, expanding, exhaling, releasing. You can even label that. Inhaling, expanding, exhaling, releasing. If you notice thoughts going through your mind, just notice what you're thinking. Take note and return to your breath. If you notice any physical sensations, once again, take note and return to your breath. And then, as you're ready, returning to the room. That mindfulness practice is something that you could sit at your desk and do for 2 minutes, and it would begin to shift your energy. You could do it when you're driving a car. If you notice you're really distracted and you're not watching the road, just say to yourself, where's my breath? Am I really rooted in the present moment? You could do that in the middle of a conversation. You could be talking to someone and realize you're not hearing a word they're saying. And just in that moment in your own head, ask yourself, where is my breath? Come back to your breath, and what you'll find is you are suddenly back with that person. I have to say that during this time of the coronavirus, I have found the concept of mindfulness to be one of the most powerful coping mechanisms that I have. My brain can easily go forward and cause a lot of anxiety, and I can easily dwell in the past and really get myself stirred up about things. But when I say to myself, where am I in this moment? How am I doing? Follow my breath, let my breath settle a little bit, and then say, what do I need to manage in this moment? Is there something bothering me from the past that I need to take care of? Is there something I'm afraid of in the future and I need to really think it through? So really using mindfulness as a concept, but practicing it. Try doing it for 5 minutes, set a timer. Over time, you might get comfortable with 10 minutes of just sitting and observing. So this is what we just did. You're focusing on the breath and noticing that in and out and observing. And you'll see down here, suspend judgment of yourself and your thoughts. Okay. Which leads then to our third step, which is identifying what is within your control. Because what is within our control is whatever is happening in this moment. Think about all of the energy that we expend on things that are beyond our control. It's a very natural thing to do. It's generated by fear oftentimes. But if we can recognize it and say, I am very focused on things that I can't control, acknowledge it. Say yes, because perhaps these things frighten me. I'm afraid about what might happen for my child at school. And what if there is an outbreak? That's a very real fear. So if I can be with it, acknowledge it, say, yes, there it is, then I can come back to, I can't change the school policy, but what can I do to help keep my child safe? Those are the types of things that we do. We can come back and say, what do I have control over? So first of all, is to acknowledge what I don't have control over, and even acknowledge what the impact is. It's frightening for me. It's frustrating for me. Acknowledge it, because those feelings are all there. But then say, where am I in the present moment, and what is within my control? The nth degree of that, of what is within my control, is myself. There are times when there is very little out there that I have control over. So how am I going to be with it? That might be that I come back and say, I'm going to shift my thinking and just think about what is working for me in this moment. What do I know for sure? What strengths do I have? What resources do I have? Sometimes the only thing we have control over is ourselves. We want to assess, what are my primary concerns? There are a whole lot of things out there that we're responsible for, whether that's, once again, at work or at home. What is primary in this moment? Because that could shift. What are my priorities? It might be that I'm someone that's working from home, and I have children at home to be accountable. Maybe they're in a learning setting that's hybrid. In that moment, I might be working, but I can see that one of my children is struggling. In that moment, I might need to shift. I might need to make a different plan. So it's moment to moment assessing in this moment what is primary, because the other aspect of mindfulness, we can only do one thing at a time. We put a lot of emphasis in this culture about multitasking. The bottom line is we don't multitask. We do one thing at a time. If we're asking our brain to be shifting back and forth very quickly between a lot of things, that increases our anxiety. And it also kind of blows out the circuits in our brain. It is not good for our brains. So whether that is, saying, I'm only going to check my email, every 15 minutes, I'm not going to have a pop-up there popping up telling me every email that's coming in. I'm going to shut off my cell phone or put it on vibrate, and not answer texts one by one when I'm trying to work. Whatever little strategies we can have to do one thing at a time, that lowers anxiety. So then we move into the problem solving. I would imagine most of you use to-do lists. Most people do, and it might be the size of a legal pad. If you look at the size of a legal pad to-do list, you will go from mild concern to obsessive, frightening thoughts in an instant. It's too overwhelming. Break it down, look at the list, focus on one or two things at a time. Brittany, I'm seeing we have some chats. Should I pause for a minute and see?
I am not seeing any new chats.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
All right. Might be my glasses.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. The last point here is to be patient and kind, both to yourself and to others. This is a very, very difficult time, as I said at the beginning. And we have to recognize we're all showing up each day doing the best that we can do. And we have to give ourselves a little leeway in that. What am I expecting of myself? What am I expecting of others? Can I be kind to myself if things don't go so well? Can I be kind to someone else if they're not having their best day? So the kindness is so important right now. The other thing you'll see here down at the bottom is that so much of our focus, and it's very much our culture, is on what we are doing. There are times when there is nothing else to do. We have to simply sit and be. Just be with what is. It might be that moment that you just feel totally at a loss, overwhelmed, don't know what to do next. That is the perfect time to stop doing. Just be with yourself, be with a loved one, follow your breath. Notice what you're telling yourself. Just be with what is. Allow yourself to feel the feelings. Then you can move on from that place. But there are just times when it's not the time to be action-oriented. Any final comments about that at all? Comments, questions?
Mary, I was just going to make a comment. You might have a direct message from someone that I can't see. So if you're seeing something, it might be because they directly messaged you.
Yeah, I think it's because I had not brought up all of the chats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, great.
Perfect.
Thanks. Yeah, okay. I just want to conclude today with the emotional self-care. During this time, we have to be so intentional about caring for ourselves. I won't go through this list one by one, but just take a look at this list. The first one I will mention is, it's so important. Someone had mentioned at the beginning about social isolation. This is a very isolating time. We can't gather in the ways that we're used to gathering. We can't always necessarily get a hug when we need a hug. It's so important to find ways, whether that's through a phone call, a Zoom meeting, taking a walk with a friend outdoors, whatever it may be, to find ways to stay connected. That is critical right now. We cannot make it through this alone. So finding ways to stay connected. But just look through the list, see if there's anything that jumps out at you. I'd also like to know, are there things that you have found particularly helpful for your self-care? What helps you step out of the COVID bubble? What helps you come back to your sense of well-being? What have you found helpful? If you would just chat something in, would love to see. We've learned, as I've done these seminars, we've learned so much from hearing each other on what people are doing that's helping them maintain a sense of well-being. So please go ahead and chat those in. And then as you're doing that, I also want to mention that worry can move to that place of anxiety. And as we talked about earlier, how do we know when it's becoming problematic? It's becoming problematic when I'm finding that I can't focus, I can't control my thoughts. It's getting to the point where it's really causing me to feel down, to maybe lose my motivation and not care. Some people, even with worry and anxiety, can find themselves, because it is so uncomfortable, moving even to a place of having thoughts of self-harm. And so we have to be able to recognize when we're getting into that zone where we either need to reach out to loved ones and say, I can't do this alone. I just need some time with you. I need some time to talk. And then that's also why I want to mention the Employee Assistance Program. And just let you know that if you are concerned about yourself or about a loved one and how this worry and anxiety is weighing, that there are a whole host of ways that we can help. First of all, our toll-free number, and I'm going to go to this slide here. Our toll-free number that you see under access is available 24/7. There is always a counselor available, and it's always live answering. You don't go through a phone tree to talk to someone. If you download our mobile app, KGA Mobile, you can always be, well, during business hours, you can text and chat with someone. And then also on the app and on our web platform, you can actually do a mental health assessment. You'll see on there self-assessments. You can go in there. There's a self-assessment on generalized anxiety. It will ask about 10 questions. You just click on the answers and it gives you immediate feedback about next steps, how concerned you should be, and next steps. So those self-assessments are for like anxiety, depression, substance use, those kinds of things. So both on the mobile app and the web platform, you can access those things. But there is always a counselor available to talk to. It could be a 10-minute conversation. I'm struggling, I'm not sure what to do next. To, I really need to arrange, or I'd like to arrange some counseling. Our KGA counselors will arrange all of that for you right now. The counseling is being done mostly virtually through video platform or telephone. And during COVID, otherwise it would be live, but they will get a counselor scheduled with you so that you have someone to reach out to. So just know that whether your concern is for yourself or a loved one, and the Employee Assistance Program is available to your household members. Anyone in your household can call us directly. They don't have to go through you. So there's free counseling, no cost, 3 one-hour sessions with a licensed counselor. And then we help with these other things as well, the legal, financial, the childcare concerns. There's a nutrition coach. We even have a sleep coach that you can have a free consultation with, and other types of convenience services. Just whenever you need some help finding anything from a pet sitter to a plumber, just anything that's stressing you out, give us a call and we'll help you find some resources.
Mary, we did have someone put in the chat that cooking and baking helps them.
Oh, good.
And alone time outside or driving in their car.
Great. That's really good. And I think, habits like the cooking and baking, that's real comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real comfort. And, I have to say my personal favorite at this time is outdoor time. I just find that when I get outdoors and kind of connect with that bigger world, we're seeing the birds migrating right now. They don't know that COVID is going on. They're doing what they always do. Just the lovely colors right now. If you're having trouble finding something to feel positive about, just step outdoors, get that breath of fresh air. And take a walk in the woods if you can. It really can help shift. Even driving in the car, that's a great one. I find that very soothing sometimes. So really asking yourself, what helps you step out of that COVID bubble? And just remember that there's a whole big world out there beyond us that's still functioning quite well. And that there are a lot of things to be positive about. I encourage you to go to the web platform. That's nhitrust.org. And then under the wellness, you'll find the work-life assistance online services. You'll need the company code NHIT. When you go to the page, you'll see a little box. It's a sign in and sign up. Please set up what's called a membership. It's just a login and a password. Set that up. You'll need your code to do that. I'm going to give you a little incentive to go on the web platform. If you go in there, set up that login and password, the membership, and then go into the website, you'll see under member resources, the KGA bookshelf. that on that bookshelf, there are about 30 books right now recommended by our KGA counselors, self-help books about parenting, about communications, all kinds of things, a book on getting good sleep. You can order 2 free books a year. So if you go on that web platform today, just go to the NHI Trust website and look for the EAP. You can order a free book today, and you can order 1 more free book before September or October 20th of next year. And then you can start all over and order 2 free books. So please take advantage of what is there for you. You will see so many resources on the website, articles, tip sheets, videos, webinars. It goes on and on. So just go on in and take a look. But I do hope that there has been something that's been helpful for you today, to kind of a takeaway. And I would say just a couple of parting thoughts. One is to remember that question, where is my breath? Just that question is available to you at any moment, anywhere, anytime. And then the second takeaway is being really kind and non-judging toward yourself and toward others. This is such a tremendous, just challenging time that we're in right now. And there's a collective sense of anxiety in the world. And so it's very difficult to escape it. So if we can practice some of these things, whether it's getting outside or, baking a really wonderful batch of cookies, whatever it may be, something that brings us back to a state of feeling positive in our lives and remembering there is a lot there to be grateful for. And finally, not being afraid to reach out for help. Whether that's for you or a loved one, we are there for you 24/7. So any final questions, comments? I will stop sharing my screen.
We just have a comment in the chat. Thank you for another wonderful session.
Great, you're welcome.
It. Yes, thank you so much, Mary. Session was awesome per usual. And thank you all for taking the time to watch. If you would like the recording, please reach out to me. I think the majority of you have my email, but if you don't, it's Brittany, BRITTANY @NHItrust.org, and I'd be happy to send it to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Brittany.
Thank you, Mary. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Great to be with you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.